makeup friends, and welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 brands that I have lost interest in. I also have a couple of brands that I'm going to talk about that are kind of on thin ice at this point. Kind of have to give them one more chance, but things aren't looking so good for them. And then we're going to round the video out by talking about the brands you guys have lost interest in. And so just before we dive into the brands, I just want to explain what I mean when I'm saying I lost interest. These aren't necessarily the brands that I have forgotten about, because there are quite a few brands that I just forget exist. Smashbox. I always forget that they're even a thing, because when's the last time Smashbox put out anything that anybody talked about? Stila. They had their liquid glitter and glows or glimmer and shines or shimmer and shits. I can't remember what it was called, but that was like a standout product for them. Aside from that, what else have they put out in the last 5 years? So there's definitely brands that I have just genuinely forgotten about. These are brands, though, that I have just decided actively. I'm done with their shenanigans. I will explain what those particular shenanigans are. They vary from brand to brand, but I think it'll become self-evident what I'm talking about. So let's get into it. All right, first up, Jaclyn Cosmetics. Just done with Jaclyn. I've been done with Jaclyn for a very long time, but curiosity, just pure curiosity got me to buy some of her products. And they are nothing special. They truly aren't. The Dear Mom eyeshadow palette was disappointing, save and except for one shade. Her lip products are forgettable at best, and the powders that I've tried from her are just like any other powder, just very generic. Really nothing to set them apart. Packaging looks nice, but honestly, packaging was very chunky, particularly on the cheek products. So there's just no real redeeming aspect to the brand or the brand owner, in my opinion. Jaclyn herself just continues to find new lows. I mean, at this point, her name is synonymous with drama, and I don't think I even need to drag up the history of her drama. She continues to do the same things. She continues to make the same mistakes, half-assedly apologizes for them, and then turns around and does it again. So I am done. I don't care. I've satisfied my curiosity about her brand. I'm not interested. Nothing that I've tried from her has wowed me. And her as an individual, she's just not somebody that I want to support with dollars, even if they are just simply dollars for the sake of curiosity or for the sake of a review. They are better spent elsewhere. I'm just not interested in her or what she has to offer at this point. For the next brand that I'm going to talk about, my decision lies more so with the owner of the brand than it does with the products or their quality. I do have a number of these products, and I'm not going to throw them out simply because I dislike the owner, but I just don't see myself purchasing from the brand anytime in the foreseeable future. And I do want to just add that little footnote in here. These are not brands that I am saying I am absolutely 100% never ever going to buy from again, but they are brands that right now I am not checking for what they are releasing. They are not on my radar, and I'm really not intrigued by anything that they have. And it's going to take something very special to make me reconsider my position on this. So the brand that I'm talking about is ABH, and I've been a long-time purchaser and user of their products, but I haven't bought anything in probably over a year at this point, and we are fast approaching the 1-year anniversary of the Instagram posts that kind of sealed this brand's fate in my eyes. And honestly, I don't even want to put the pictures up because Putin. I don't want him on my channel. I don't want you to have to look at him. I think he is evil personified, but the owner of ABH doesn't. So I'm not going to get into it. I will, if I can find a Reddit thread or something, I will link it in the description box in case you want to know more. But suffice it to say, she is pro-Putin. I am very much not. And so we're diametrically opposed. And I just can't support a brand owned by somebody who so openly supports such an evil creature. Now, another brand that I have decided I just am not interested in purchasing from at this point is Juvia's Place. For a few reasons. I have bought a number of their palettes in the past, and while I've always really enjoyed the quality of their palettes, the color stories aren't always intuitive to me. So I buy these palettes and then they sit and I don't use them because when I look at them, I don't know what to do with them. And so what's really the point? Then they kind of took a bit of a shift into releasing these really big palettes, and I don't tend to enjoy big palettes, so I wasn't buying them. They've also changed who they ship through, so now shipping from Juvia's place is extraordinarily expensive if you live in Canada. But what really got me was their sponsored post that they allowed to go up and allowed to stay up for several days, if I recall correctly, where somebody used an anti-Asian slur in their makeup application to describe the look that they were creating. And when people called them out on that, not only did the creator just sort of double down and play innocent and not really make any sort of apology, but Juvia's place also didn't address it and didn't give any sort of meaningful apology. So in the interest of fairness, I did want to include this secondary post that Juvia's Place made. I had completely forgotten that they had made this, but in looking for pictures for this video, I did come across this one, so I wanted to include it here just to show that they did make an apology, but it did take them an egregiously long time to do so. So my feelings still stand. It's just left a very bad taste in my mouth, and I know that a lot of this kind of nonsense abounds. There's a lot of brand owners. You'll notice that I'm not mentioning Jeffree Star. Frankly, it kind of goes without saying at this point, so ergo I haven't said, but he is yet another example of a brand owner who just makes their own personal opinions and personal shenanigans so very public that they're completely intrinsically entwined with their own product. So while we can say the brand owner is not the brand, in some instances, the brand owner very much makes the brand themselves. And I've completely got myself off track. And I think I'm using the wrong analogy here because, frankly, I don't actually know who owns Juvia's Place. But if I can just massage the analogy a little bit to make it fit what I'm trying to say, basically, the owner of Juvia's Place, or at least the person who is in charge of their social media accounts, had to know what the issue was, even if they did not themselves know that that word was problematic. When you have an influx of people telling you that it's problematic, tweeting pictures of this, retweeting posts of it, you have to know that there is something wrong. You have to act quickly. You can't leave that kind of stuff up for days at a time, or else it really just sends a very clear message that you don't care. And if you don't care about taking a stance against anti-Asian racism, then I don't care about purchasing your products. Along the same lines, if you release a collection in collaboration with somebody who is well known and very vocal for being anti-trans, we're going to have a problem. ColourPop, I'm looking at you. Not only did they release this Harry Potter licensed collection, meaning J.K. Rowling is making even more money than she already has, but they never apologized for it. When people made comments under their posts about this, calling them out for her anti-trans behavior, they were silent. So again, we have a brand that clearly doesn't care. And if they're willing to put money into the coffers of somebody who actively works against a marginalized section of our society, then I'm not going to be giving them the money to hand on over to her. And honestly, even if we just set that aside, ColourPop just fucking exhausts me in any event. Every time I blink, there's another collection coming out, and I can't keep up with it, nor do I want to. And frankly, nor do I think I have to, because most of the releases that they put out look so very similar to previous releases that it's not necessary. So they are a brand that even before the Harry Potter collection came out, I was already like, you're just too much. Like, you are just too aggressive, too in my face. You're constantly spamming me with new releases. I need a restraining order, back off. And then they went and did that. And it made it that much easier to just turn my back on them altogether. Now, at the beginning, I said that these were brands that I had sort of actively decided I was no longer interested in. This last one, not quite so much, and I can't quite put my finger on why I'm disinterested, but perhaps in the process of me trying to explain it, it'll all come together. We'll see. Anyways, it's kind of surprising to me. Well, actually, it is very surprising to me that BH Cosmetics is on my list of brands that I'm just not interested in anymore, but here we are. I used to love BH, so it's very surprising to me that I've included them on this list. But ever since they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy and we learned that Makeup Revolution had bought them out, I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in Makeup Revolution. So BH Cosmetics under the Makeup Revolution umbrella somehow in my mind is not the same thing. And I don't know that to be true. Honestly, I could just completely be wrong here and be shutting the door on something that shouldn't be shut. But in my mind, there is a very clear dividing line between BH Cosmetics filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and whatever this is now. I don't know. I still get emails from them. I actually do need to go through and do a lot of unsubscribing. I'm getting a lot of emails from brands that I've never even bought for. How the hell do they get my email address? Anyways, I digress. They send out a bunch of emails, but I haven't seen anything new from them. So I just don't know what they're doing. Their website is a bit of a hot mess. I'm just not interested. I'm just not. Maybe something will come along that'll like perk my ears up and I'll hop on over and try it out. But right now it's just a brand that I am not following. I'm just not looking at them, seeing what they have. I'm just not interested. So then I also have 3 brands that are on thin ice for me. This isn't to say that I won't buy from them, but I'm hesitant to do so, and I'll explain. So I can kind of lump them all together. We've got Melt Cosmetics, Urban Decay, and NARS. So these are all brands that I have purchased several items from in the past, and I have had hit or miss experiences with all 3 brands. Some things I really, really love, some things not so much. And therein lies the problem, particularly if we look at Melt Cosmetics. Their eyeshadow collections suck me in all the time. Their release pictures, everything is just so over the top and so like such a rich experience that it sucks you in and makes you want to buy those products to be part of that experience. The color stories are often very interesting, not always, but often. The packaging is stunning. And then the shadows themselves are just very hit or miss. Like they are a very inconsistent brand. When they nail the formula, they freaking nail it. But how come they can't replicate it every single time? I don't understand. I bought the Smoke Sessions palette at one point. It was incredibly crumbly. Those metallic shades just turned to dust as soon as you touched them. They would puff up out of the pan when this palette wasn't in use. And it was just a hot mess. The 420 palette looked beautiful, and a lot of those shades just looked indistinguishable from each other once they were applied and blended out. Very, very disappointing. And when they're charging what they're charging, off the top of my head, I want to say close to the $70 mark Canadian, I just will not take that kind of risk for such an inconsistent brand. Now, a brand that is far more consistent, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing, is Urban Decay. Their eyeshadow quality is just not up to par with a lot of the other brands that we're seeing today. They may have been revolutionary and groundbreaking back in the day, but then they haven't really evolved since then. And I keep hoping, I really just keep cheering them on from the sidelines, and then they consistently fumble. Yes, I can make sports analogies too, even though I don't watch sports ball. Regardless, they consistently disappoint me. And they consistently put out these palettes that could be great, but just aren't. Like they miss the mark every time. And it's kind of sad in a way. And I'm not sure why. I'm just like so in their corner, just hoping for something good. Perhaps it's nostalgia. I don't know. But they're just a brand that I'm just not super excited about putting my money towards. Now with NARS, they're just a forgettable brand. When they nail it, but they don't very often nail it. And like, for the love of God, can we let the orgasm horse just die, please? Can we just do something else, anything else, something different, please? It's not titillating anymore. It doesn't make me clutch my pearls. It doesn't even hit on my radar as something like, oh, that's different and risque. It just honestly at this point is laughable and almost pathetic seeming. So I would love to see like NARS just infuse some new life into their brand, try something different, push their own envelopes, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it. All right, so now we're going to talk about the brands that you guys have lost interest in. So anybody who had commented under my community post where I talked about this video idea, I read all those comments, wrote down every brand that everybody mentioned, tallied them all up, and then created the list of the top 3, except the third place is tied amongst 6 brands. So we're going to run through the 8 brands that you guys have lost interest in. There is a clear winner, but we're going to do that one last. So first off, with 5 mentions each, there are, like I said, 6 brands. Some of them overlap with me, but we have got ColourPop, Urban Decay, Juvia's Place, and then where you guys differ from me, there is Cosmetics. So Cosmetics is a brand that I'm not interested in, but mainly because getting it shipped to Canada is prohibitively expensive. So I have tried to make purchases in the past, but I'm not willing to pay in shipping what I've paid for the items. The comments that came up the most about Cosmetics were in relation to the owner, and I think somebody had said she seems to have lost the plot, and I think that that is a very apt description, and that is what a lot of you sort of repeated, as well as the shipping costs. Morphe was on there as well, and I think we're starting to see the beginning of the end for them. As you know, they have also closed all of their stores within the US, and there are Chapter 11 filings for them as well, I believe, because Forma has, and then they are a subsidiary, and so shit trickles downhill, so here we are. They still have their international brick and mortar stores up, and they are still selling through like Ulta and online retailers, but we'll see. We'll see where the year brings us. I do think that the tide has sort of shifted with Morphe in particular, and with a lot of these like documents being released in relation to their bankruptcy. I think a lot of people's eyes are being opened, but never really a brand that I really fucked with. Like I bought some of their stuff, I got sucked in on the hype, and I never found them to be particularly fantastic. The eyeshadow palettes always smelled weird to me, like they just smelled like old powder. Maybe it was the talc in it, I'm not entirely sure, but I just never really got along with them. And then the brushes were great for the first maybe 6 months, 7 months or so, and then they all started falling apart. So the longevity just was never there for me, and even when I have just out of curiosity purchased a couple palettes here and there just to see if things have changed, I've been very disappointed with them. So they are a brand that doesn't really hit on my radar either. And the last brand that had 5 mentions in the comment is Jeffree Star. Yeah, not a brand that I am interested in. I don't even know what his last release was. Some banana thing? I don't know, like dude's almost 40 and he's still like, ooh, sex is funny. Like, good God. Hey, Nars, Jeffree, like why don't you guys go out for coffee sometime? You guys might find each other enjoyable. Anyways, moving on from there, with 7 mentions in the comments was Too Faced. So a lot of people cited the Rich Lives Matter cake that they posted. Jared Blandino posted on his Instagram. God only knows when. Again, time has lost all meaning. I have no idea if it was this summer, a year ago. I have no idea. But he did it, and poor taste, like just poor taste. But also there was a lot of comments about their declining quality, how they've kind of stagnated, and really just need to shake up their game. And I would definitely agree with that. If you've watched recent videos of mine, I did pick up the Pumpkin Spice Second Slice palette, and it initially applies really nicely, but it just has no staying power on the eyes. And I really think that Too Faced, particularly because they seem to just recycle these palettes year after year and just make a little tweak here and there, but largely they're the same thing. Maybe invest in your formula, improve, expand. I don't know, but like they also just have a bit of a brand identity crisis, I find. It's like they are either marketing themselves to children and they've got little teddy bears and a little dog all over the place, or they're like swinging the other end of the pendulum and they're doing like the glow job stuff and just like doubling down on the sex puns. So like, who are you, Too Faced, and who are you actually marketing to? I think they're just trying to cover a bunch of bases, and in the meantime they're just alienating everybody. So that's why they're on this list. And then the number 1 brand that you guys have lost interest in had 9 comments on her, and that is Pat McGrath. And I have to agree, hard agree. I honestly have never really understood the fervor pitch around her, like people just, they'll eat their own arm in order to get her palette. And I just don't really get it. Like I've tried some of her palettes in the past and they're not bad, but nor are they like life-changing. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. People talk a lot of times about the special shades that she has, and I'm like, they're not as special as a lot of the singles that I have. So like, okay. And then most recently with this whole Star Wars debacle, like I truly don't understand that, because that exact same palette was on sale, if not 40%, 50% off on her website. And yet people were spending, at least in Canada, it's like $170 to $180 for one of those palettes. They were spending that amount for the packaging, like the Star Wars packaging, and then it turns out just to be a sticker on top of the other palette that you could have got for 50% off. If you bought it for full price, can you just explain why? Like, honestly, no judgment. I just don't understand. Was it because people thought that this was actual like imprinted packaging, not a sticker? That I could understand more. Like if you're a huge Pat McGrath fan, huge Star Wars fan, your worlds collide, that would make sense. But I think it was really fucking shady that she never said that it was a sticker, because that would change my mind in terms of whether I was going to buy it or not. Just saying. And then I think it was Lauren May Beauty in a recent video was showing the 5-pan palettes that she picked up and how similar those shades are to existing shades and palettes she already had from Pat McGrath. And the whole thing just feels icky. And I don't want to like levy that directly at Pat McGrath herself, the artist, the creator, but whoever is making the business decisions, if it's not her, what the fuck? Like it's just, the brand is starting to feel cheap. What I mean is like, it just doesn't have the same luxurious feel. It doesn't have that same exclusive feel. Like why is Pat McGrath doing collabs in the first place? I don't get it. Maybe again, I could be missing something. Is there some like connection between Star Wars and Pat McGrath that I'm not aware of? Like maybe she's a mega fan. I don't know. But I still just don't really see how those worlds align. Regardless, her like customer service is terrible as well, and the shipping from her website is atrocious. Like I made mention of this, I know it was last year, the beginning of last year. I had ordered the Bridgerton shit, I can't remember, and I had paid for the expedited shipping, and it was either $10 or upwards of $20. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for it. It was 2-day shipping, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I will pay it. I will get my shit in 2 days. Away we go. 2 weeks later, it finally shipped. So well beyond the estimated delivery date. And I had emailed their customer service in the meantime saying like, what is happening? I've paid for expedited shipping. Clearly you've missed that timeline. Can I at least be refunded for the shipping payment because you didn't hold up your end of that particular bargain? Crickets. Never heard anything back. So I will never, ever pay for expedited shipping from her website again. But also, I just don't order from her website. If I truly want something from her line, I will just get it from Sephora. At least then I know if I have a problem, I have a much better chance of having it resolved. So there we have it. There are a bunch of brands and a bunch of reasons why I and you are no longer interested in them. So thank you so much for responding to that community post. It made for very interesting reading and also really helped me with the creation of this video. So thank you very much. Having said that, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.